All right, this video is a tutorial demonstration for Firefly pose, or in yoga this is often called Tittibhasana. Just to see what we're on the same page here, so we all know what we're talking about. I'm just going to get into it very quickly. So what this is, it's an arm balance. It's basically a deep forward fold. Your legs are around your arms. Takes a lot of hip opening. Ideally, you do this with straightened legs, but you work it as best you can. And to come into this, if you haven't really done this pose before, and keep in mind, if you're new to this kind of thing, if you just started practicing yoga, if you're not that strong in the arms, if you're not that flexible, it's probably going to take you a little while, okay? And that's just kind of the way it goes. It takes a lot of hip mobility, takes a good amount of arm strength. You're going to feel this in the wrists and the hands. You got to pull your chest forward a little bit and have some extension through the upper back and through the thoracic spine. All these things are not things that happen overnight, okay? So be ready to work on this stuff for a little while. It took me about 3 years to be able to get into the full version of this pose. There's ways to play around with this. There's compromises that you can use to get close. And as you start to practice more often and start to move around a little bit better, get more mobility in your joints, this does become a lot easier. Now, if you haven't done this a whole lot before, what I would recommend is just feeling out the basic position. And in yoga, most people come into this happy baby pose very frequently. You can try this out on your back. So from here, bring your knees in your chest, knees wide. Reach between the knees. Find the outside edges of the feet. And then just bring your legs out wide with the knees still bent. Now, when you pull down here, you're trying to bring your knees toward the floor. Keep your spine long. Keep your feet pressing back into your hands at the same time. And you should feel this in the inner thighs, through the hip crease a little bit. And you're trying to find that deep compression. And then to take this toward your Firefly pose, just go ahead and bring the arms between the thighs. Try to lift your head into a deep forward fold. And yeah, I know this gets a little bit goofy and a little bit weird. My inner 12-year-old finds this pose ridiculous. But point through the toes so you can let go of the hamstrings. Press your arms into your legs. Press your legs back into your arms. So you're pressing out but squeezing the legs in at the same time. And you're going to feel the sort of engagement that you need for Firefly. If you can straighten your legs out further, keep pressing into the arms as you're doing that at the same time. And this is a good way to sort of feel things out. This gets you into that basic position and that basic deep fold. Now, the easiest way I know to go into the pose itself, and just to feel this out, this is just from a standing wide-legged forward fold. So basically, you bring yourself up onto your feet with your feet set wide, a little wider than your hips. Heels in, toes out, stay loose, keep your knees bent, and keep your hips up high and your head low. And then you're going to walk your hands back and come into the fold. Once you come in toward balancing on your hands, keep in mind, you want to try to do this so that your fingertips point forward, and that's a lot on the wrist. If you need to back off, go ahead and rotate your fingers to the side, but try not to go any further than 90 degrees right and left, but just take it to where your wrist can handle. So you're going to walk your hands back and pull yourself down low between your thighs. Ideally, you get the shoulders between the knees. Just get as close as you can. And then once you're ready, once you can't fold any deeper, you got to be a little bit brave and take this kind of fast. Now, you want to sit this down on bent arms. So just look straight down to the floor all at once. Set your palms flat, bend the elbows, sit on your arms, and squeeze the knees in toward your shoulders. And basically, if you end up like this, you've got something to work with. But if you come down or keep the arms too straight, or if you sit upright too quickly, you're going to come right down onto your butt. And if that happens, you got to start all over again. Now, there's a tendency for people to not want to bend their arms as they come into this. You have to fold down pretty deep, and it does feel a little bit weird, okay? It's very abrupt. You don't know if you're going to land on your arms or land on the floor. And if you're afraid of landing on your butt, and keep in mind, this is where all the padding is, so it's safe. You're not going to get a concussion. You can always set a pillow behind you or a couch cushion or something like that, and just give that a try. Try to slow your landing down and try to land folded, bent elbows with your chest still facing the floor. So again, as I was showing you here, wide-legged forward fold, heels in, toes out, keep your knees bent, walk the hands back, fingertips forward, or maybe to the side, no further than that. Walk this through, and once you can't fold anymore, go ahead all at once, set the palms, bend the elbows, sit on the arms, and squeeze the knees toward your shoulders. Now, once you've got this position, keep your chest facing down, and if you haven't really done this a whole lot before, you may find it's easier just to pull your feet in towards center, hook at the ankles, and use that hook to squeeze the legs in and pull the legs toward each other, and this will help keep you balanced. This is arm pressure pose in yoga. And if you want to take it from Firefly, it's all the same engagement. Try to still keep the fold, keep your elbows bent at least a little bit, look forward, and then release your feet, point your toes, keep the legs squeezing in, And you can play around with this. Maybe hips come down lower, maybe up a little bit higher. Maybe you got a little bend in the knees, and that's fine. It took me a while to be able to straighten my legs out. It takes a while, especially if you got tight hamstrings. And if you want an interesting transition from here, woo, let's see if I can take this. You can bring this up and maybe land this into crow. You can also lift this up further, and it's possible to press up into a handstand from that after you've been practicing that a little while. And just work that as best you can. Now, one other entry here, and this is, you may find this easier if you've got a good amount of hip opening. This gives you a little bit of inertia. And basically, you're rolling into this from a boat pose. So from that, you just come to seated, and you're going to fold from here. So the knees are already out wide. I'm bringing my torso down low between my thighs. And just work this as best you can, one leg at a time. Bring your legs up behind your arms, and you're trying to get the knees behind the shoulders. Just get as close as you can. So my right arm's going to press in my right leg to keep it in place and keep it hooked. My left arm goes behind my left leg. And I'm just going to take this back and forth. So I'm pressing the arms into my legs and squeezing my legs into my sides. Okay, so you want that tension. You're not passive in the legs at all. So as you press out, press your hands into the floor. Just rock this back and forth. Try to deepen your fold each time. And then when you're ready, you're going to use some momentum to lift your butt up off the floor. Now, keep in mind, when you roll forward, you want to shoot your feet forward and reach your head forward as well. So you're trying to come up with bent arms. If you try to come up to straight arms, it's going to be a lot harder, and you're probably just going to drop back down on your butt. So after you take this back and forth a few times, lean it forward. Try to take it down a little bit deeper each time. And then once you're ready, come forward, squeeze the arms, shoot your toes forward, and see about lifting up toward balancing. And just work that as best you can. And again, this is not an easy pose to get into. And if you want to be fancy coming back out, you can come back onto your feet and lift your hips up into the air. There's a lot of ways to play around with this, and there's a lot of dynamic transitions that you can go back and forth through once you start getting a little bit more of that basic mobility and strength under control. But this is not an easy pose to get into, especially if your hips are tight and you're just kind of dealing with, just going into different flexibility issues and building up strength. Let it take time, and there's a lot of ways to work on this. And if you're interested, I have a lot of vinyasa flows that will sort of lead you into the preparation to get you closer to this. So just keep that in mind, and you can always let me know if you have any questions. Anyway, hope this helps. Thank you very much.